Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:06 now on O'Connor and Company on Wednesday, July 17th, coming off an evening where the Republican Party showed more unity than they have, honestly, since the 2004 re-election nomination of George W. Bush. Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley took to the stage of the convention to throw their undying support for Donald Trump and to show the stark contrast that our party stands for versus the Democrats. It was an enormous night. And meanwhile, in the Democrat side of the equation, they're still figuring out a way in dark corridors of this town, mostly in salons in Kalorama. They're trying to figure out how to get rid of their nominee. That's where we stand right now on this 17th day of July, and we're going to give you all the details coming up at 6:35. Cal Thomas, 7:05. Mark Paoletta on a story we're about to discuss, Joe Biden's attempt to completely undo the Supreme Court. 7:35. Hung Cao gave a great speech last night, and he wants to talk to you personally, Virginia. 8:05. Mercedes Schlapp, who was in Milwaukee. And then at 8:35, Richard Anderson, chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia. I'm Larry O'Connor. She's Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Julie. So I've been saying all morning that Joe Biden is looking to blow up the Supreme Court. They're calling it reform. I call it terrorism. Joe Biden, after many, many months and years, really, of speculation, has confirmed now in a desperate attempt to shore up his liberal base in his party. Understand, everything that Joe Biden does right now is to maintain his hold on the nomination for president. It has nothing to do with the best interests of this country.
Right.
That's why he's discussed this stupid 5% rent control cap, which is unconstitutional and will go nowhere. That's why he
$55.
Yeah, we'll give you those that flub in a moment. In his speech at NAACP. He also is trying to double down again on his student loan repayment scheme.
Yeah, it is just madness at this point.
It's all about the liberals. And by the way, that student loan repayment scheme, ironically, was struck down by the Supreme Court, and he went ahead and unconstitutionally used executive action to do an end around the judiciary. And now, here's a little bit from his statement to the Washington Post. I'm going to need your help on the Supreme Court because I'm about to come out. I don't want to prematurely announce it, but I'm about to come. Does he not know that people listen to him when he talks? He's the president.
Okay, I don't want to prematurely announce it, but here's my announcement.
But I'm about to come out with a major initiative on limiting the court. I've been working with constitutional scholars. I'd love to see which scholars. Jeffrey Toobin has been in the White House recently.
He put his pants on.
For the last 3 months, and I need some help. Understand what's at play here. Joe Biden and the Democrats do not like a series of decisions that have come from the Supreme Court. And so, and by the way, welcome to the party, pal, because we conservatives, we have not liked decisions from the Supreme Court that go back 60 years.
How many years do we have to live with Roe?
Yeah, thank you. And did we ever say, well, what we need to do is expand the court. What we need to do is impeach justices. What we need to know. We knew the rules of the game. We understood the Constitution. We said we need to keep electing presidents who promised to put good justices on. Half of them were failures, but we finally got the justices in there. How about you play by those rules?
Is everybody catching up now? The answer that Democrats have is always destroy, destroy, destroy. Destroy every institution in this country.
You're so right. This is no different than the Boy Scouts. They didn't like that the Boy Scouts had standards. They didn't like that the Boy Scouts wanted you to pledge allegiance to the flag and to God. They didn't like that they would kick people out if they didn't adhere to the moral fortitude that the Boy Scouts try to stand up for. So what did they do? They ruined the Boy Scouts.
And look at the fever dream that corporations have been under. You look at Robbie Starbuck and what he's done with John Deere, what he did with Tractor Supply, what he is exposing, the DEI agenda, and all the solution was to destroy these companies from within. Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do here with the Supreme Court.
This is something that the radical left wing of the Democratic Party, and that it's hard to tell the difference now at this point, have been begging for. Expand the Supreme Court, make it, 15 justices. So Joe Biden, the Democrat, with a Democrat majority Senate, can push through all of those extra 6 justices, giving them a supermajority, and radically change the federal bench as well. And where did he say this? To a Zoom call with Congressional Progressive Caucus. This is a bribe.
It is a bribe.
It is
Absolutely.
a bribe to give them what they want so that they don't bounce him off the ticket. And specifically, he said, I'm going to need your help. He's telling these progressives, so-called progressives, in the Democrat caucus. Now, Mark Paoletta, who is an observer of the court and is a regular guest on this program, he responded to this saying, desperate and pathetic attempt to re-energize a deflated base with increasingly outlandish and unconstitutional proposals. President Biden will do or say anything to get reelected, and he's going to lose to Donald Trump. Big time. Mark Paoletta, by the way, will join us coming up at 7:05 to discuss these details. They want term limits. They want an ethics code that would be subject to congressional approval. They are looking to send the Constitution into a shredder. And by the way, listen to the language here of that was quoted in the Washington Post. I'm about to come out with a major initiative on limiting the court. We have three branches of government. They are separate branches, and they are co-equal branches. That means the legislative branch has a certain limited amount of powers that is equal to the executive branch that has a certain amount of limited powers and exclusive powers. And then there's the judiciary that has limited but exclusive powers. One cannot infringe on the other and so-called limit the other, and that's what he's doing. He thinks that as the head of the executive branch, he can limit the court unilaterally, just like all of the unilateral, unconstitutional initiatives that he has attempted to do his entire presidency, that ironically has been stopped by the very court system that he now wants to upend.
Yeah, but I will tell you, we are going to see, and listeners should be, I'm sure they already know this, but we are in for these kinds of stunts. This is what this is a stunt. And we are going to see more of these sort of desperate and unconstitutional attempts to get voters. This reminds me a lot of some sort of like student council election, right? Mm-hmm. Where you got some guy going, hey, you want Twinkies for free at lunch? Fine, I can do that. You want Fridays, every other Friday off? Fine, I can do that. You want extra long study halls? Fine, I gotcha. Right? It's just throwing.
Just tell me what you want.
What you want.
And let me and Jill keep using the limo.
It is a desperation to reach that base that really at this point is probably because the rumors Trump's going to win may not show up. That is the panic we're seeing in the Biden administration, the Biden campaign.
Let me just say this quickly. And again, Mark Paoletta will join us to give us more analysis at 7:05. But I think that this is a great idea. I think it's going to work. I think that this will get Biden 4 more years in the White House. And if Justice Sonia Sotomayor is in any way considering retirement anytime in the next 6 months, I think she should put those plans on hold. And I think that she should wait it out because Joe Biden is good. Just follow the example of your mentor, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Stay on that bench and stay in that robe. Please do not retire. Because Joe Biden has a plan, and the court's going to be saved. It's going to be fixed. It's going to be fantastic. So, Sonia, go on vacation for a while. Pay no attention to anything else going on. You deserve a break. What with all those dissenting opinions you've been writing and all of the leaking, allegedly, that your office has engaged into the press about decisions. Go ahead and take a break. Pay no attention to politics. And for God's sake, Sonia Sotomayor, do not retire. We need you right there on that bench, just like we needed Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
My name's Joe Biden, and I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP.
Didn't you want him after that line to say, yeah, I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP. I played college football in Delaware. I wanted to go to Navy, but they had Roger Staubach. And no, sir, it's not the NCAA. It's the NAACP. He's a lifetime member. He's also black, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. He grew up in a black church. We hear it all the time. He gave a shouting, rambling, disjointed speech to the NAACP yesterday. Some highlights.
Decimated small black businesses, and you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder. Donald Trump called for the National Guard to go after you. What in the hell's the matter with this man? Well, I'm serious.
I'm serious.
Not lying.
But he is lying. as David Harsanyi pointed out when he saw this little gem flying by on X, without a doubt and just completely factual, it's not even close. The BLM arson and riots of the Summer of Love 2020 were the most destructive and costly peaceful protests in American history. More businesses were damaged, more people were injured, more people were killed than any other riots and demonstrations in American history, and it's not even close. Yep. But here's Joe Biden doing a CNN.
And you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder.
Let me tell you something. If Joe Biden wants to make this election about him claiming that the BLM riots were peaceful protests and that evil man Donald Trump wanted to call in the National Guard, bring that argument on, because I'm pretty sure I know where the American people are on this at this point. But it's despicable pandering is what it is, and we're used to that from Joe Biden. I mean, let's face it, when he was Barack Obama's vice president, he gave a speech to a mostly black group in North Carolina saying that Mitt Romney was going to have them all back in chains.
Oh, this is the man who said, if you're black and don't vote for me, you're not black.
That's right. So that's typical. That's not really a headline. This, however, is. For the last several days, he has been pushing this unconstitutional, outrageous, impossible plan to have rent control at the federal level. Yeah. Where no owner of any property is allowed to raise the rent on their home or their apartment or what have you.
Ignore the market.
More than 5%. Right. 5% cap on rent increases across the board, regardless of market demands. That's right. So he was speaking to the NAACP convention, and that proposal came up on the teleprompter. The problem is, as you so often say, Julie Gunlock, our president has what for brains?
Mashed potatoes for brains.
Mashed potatoes for brains. And he was incapable of reading the teleprompter. By the way, this comes one day after his Lester Holt interview, when Lester Holt says, do you want to get back on the horse? And he said, I'm on the horse. I've shown that I can give a speech without a teleprompter. I've shown that. When has he operated without a teleprompter?
Yeah, even when he was reacting to the assassination attempt of President Trump.
It was pre-recorded.
It was on a teleprompter.
Yes, although the teleprompter, I believe, was hanging from the chandelier in the Oval Office.
No questions from the press.
None at all. No. So here he is, delivering, and it's a pretty simple proposal, right? I mean, you got to think to yourself, if you're Joe Biden and you know you're talking about your rent control proposal and you've been saying it for the last week that it's 5%, how hard is it? Even if the teleprompter is wrong, even if you have, issues reading the teleprompter because your vision is failing, how do you not know what your policy is? It's a 5% cap. But here is Joe Biden fighting with the teleprompter and his mashed potato brains.
The idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something, under what I'm about to announce, they can't raise it more than $55.
Oh, it's the pause, too.
I know.
And he's trying, I guess, to cover the fact that he can't read his... Yeah, he certainly can't remember. And so he tries to make it very dramatic. And then he just says, I got to say something. Let's just go with $55.
I know there was a 5 in there.
Yeah, there's got that. What was that plan again?
Five.
Five. Let's just go with double 5.
Right.
That's the speed limit, isn't it? It's so... It's beautiful. It's exactly who we have in the White House.
$55.
Yeah. You know what, though? Honestly, my favorite part of this, I think, is the wild, overwhelming reaction from the crowd. They're like, you betcha, we're on board with that.
They can't raise it more than
$1, $2,
$55.
Okay. Sign me up, baby. So I got to wonder, are they stuck with this now? Will they change the transcript?
They'll change the transcript. No. They're used to clean up on aisle 7, right? They have a quick cleanup crew. They have how many Mr. Wolves do they have out there, right?
Yeah.
To just clean it up. Act
Mr.
Like
Wolf.
Yeah.
Let's not all be patting each other on the back too soon, gentlemen. All right, so let's just do the press conference real fast. We didn't practice. Karine, excuse me. The president said a $55 cap on rent control. Is that the policy?
Let me be clear. I'm going to be clear. I'm going to say this real slow.
Okay.
Okay. He has mashed potatoes for brains.
I don't think that's what she'll say.
I got half of it right.
No, it'll be something like, no, the president meant to say 5%. He was caught up in the moment. Well, then why did he say $55? Well, the point is, and I don't want to get distracted by this. I refer you instead to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. But the point is, the policy that we're proposing is 5%. Yes, but why would he say $55? Where did that come from exactly? Does that not concern you? I refer you to the president's physician.
It's really fun that you run through this. It's kind of like when I stay on Zillow for, hours at a time, sort of fantasizing about this house that I'm going to buy in a friendly area.
Yeah.
You're just as if any reporter, unless Ducey is there, is going to ask these questions.
Yeah.
They won't press her.
You're
They'll let her
right.
get away with this.
Joe Biden also has been under fire from Donald Trump because so many jobs have been lost in the black community, many of those jobs to illegal immigrants.
That's right.
Donald Trump has said that he's going to focus on black jobs, and he's being ridiculed about that. Well, black job? What's a black job? Black job.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm serious. Go figure. From a guy who spread the birthism lie against Barack Obama, saying he wasn't born in America and he wasn't a U.S. citizen. Of course, here's what he thinks of black jobs. I love his phrase, black jobs. It tells a lot about the man and about his character. Folks, I know what a black job is. It's a vice president of the United States.
That's so revealing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I hired one of you blacks to be the vice president. What more do you want?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I picked her, so I could have lines like that.
That's right.
Yep.
Also, he took a walk down memory lane, and we love it when he reminisces.
And one of my best friends, when I was a lifeguard in the projects, he was, his nickname is Mouse.
His nickname was Mouse. Some of my best imaginary friends are black. One of them was named Mouse. One wonders how Mouse got along with Corn Pop.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Including Mouse.
God.
Mouse does not. None of these people sound like they're bad, like in any way dangerous or threatening.
No.
Better look out, or Corn Pop and Mouse are going to kick your butt. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm willing to take that risk, actually. It's 6:24.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
WMAL. 6:37, O'Connor and Company here. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday morning in your nation's capital. Good to have you. It's a busy, busy news day again, as every day seems to be, as we recount what happened last night at the Republican convention. Coming up at 7:05, Mark Paoletta on Biden's scheme to upend the Constitution and remake the Supreme Court in his image. 7:35, Hung Cao, fresh off his speech last night at the convention. 8:05, Mercedes Schlapp in Milwaukee. And then at 8:35, Richard Anderson, chairman of the Republican Party there in Virginia. He's in Milwaukee as well. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Julie, can I read this to you? This is from the Texas Tribune. A little bit more Biden stuff for you, shall we? Right before the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, a group of moderate Hill Democrats had a tense Zoom call with the White House to express their concern about Biden's ability to win and their ability to win. Should he tank and take some of them down with him? The call was even worse than the debate, one of the participants told me. He was rambling. He'd start an answer, then lose his train of thought, then would just say whatever. He really couldn't complete an answer.
Oh, wow.
I lost a ton of respect for him. A second participant in the call confirmed this characterization. The president was rambling, dismissive of concerns, unable or unprepared to present a campaign strategy, and had a particularly troubling exchange with Jason Crow, saying to him, quote, "Tell me something you've ever done with your Bronze Star, like my son," this member of Congress told me. Had the assassination attempt not occurred an hour later, I imagine 50 people on that Zoom were ready to come out publicly against him. Biden ended the call on Saturday just after 5 p.m. by saying his staff told him it was time for mass. The attempted assassination happened shortly after 6 p.m. A third participant confirmed the description of the president's demeanor during the call to my partner, Abby Livingston. That's Texas Tribune. That
is unbelievable. Wow.
It's unbelievable and yet also
believable.
100% believable because that's who that man is. I just wanted to share that with you. The story just sort of came across my transom. Joining us right now is syndicated columnist Cal Thomas on, as I mentioned, Cal, a very busy news cycle with the convention going on, the selection of a nominee, and, oh, by the way, an assassination attempt. And I want to start there with you, Cal. It's kind of a big news item, I would think, that the former president and the nominee for president came within a fraction of an inch of being assassinated on national television. Does it seem like this story is not getting as much attention as it normally would? It's shocking to me that it's still not top of the fold headline.
Well, of course, it did over the weekend, especially on Fox News. They replayed the moment that the bullet hit Trump's ear.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons, well, there's several reasons. Fortunately, thank God, he was not seriously injured. I'm reading news stories now, new information coming out on various UK Daily Mail and other websites of how this local police officer distracted the shooter just long enough that he had to reposition his gun. And if he hadn't done that, along with Trump turning as he did toward the screen, the outcome might have been completely different.
Yep.
We're not talking Ronald Reagan, who got shot in the chest and went to the hospital. We're not talking, obviously, about JFK, who was murdered. But
Cal, when Gabby Giffords was shot, a congresswoman in Arizona, the false narrative that Sarah Palin and Glenn Beck were responsible for, that was a month-long story. In fact, there are still liberals and people in the media who believe that conservative talk show hosts were responsible for that, even though it's completely false. The man was a psychotic. He had no political motivations.
Well, you may remember also that Bill Clinton blamed Rush Limbaugh for the Oklahoma City bombing in the early 90s. And he also said, Clinton did at the time, that words have consequences, and we need to think before we speak. So I looked at Breitbart yesterday, and they came up with 16 examples of people on the left saying outrageous things, but they're not being held accountable. Snoop Dogg shoots Trump in the head in a music video. You remember the Kathy Griffin beheading of Trump and holding his head up, bleeding. De Niro, I'd like to punch Trump in the face. Madonna, I've thought a lot about blowing up the White House. Bette Midler openly wished for someone to stab Trump. She also fantasized about kicking him in the whatever and being physically pummeled. It goes on and on and on. De Niro again compared Trump's political rise to Nazi Germany. Rosie O'Donnell, I want to send the military to the White House to get him. All this stuff. The liberals are never held accountable for this. They just shut up for a while and come back and say the same thing over again.
And you're mentioning Hollywood here. We see it also in the media, but also among elected Democrat officials. Daily Wire is reporting that Democrat Jason Crow, who Larry just mentioned in that Axios report about his interaction with Biden, which is just astonishing. He said that, again, the Daily Wire is reporting that he said that the party has not asked members to tone down the extreme rhetoric. What is going on right now with the Democrat Party that they are not trying? This isn't serving them. What I don't understand is I don't think this is serving them well. I think the American public is sort of tired of this. Why are they not advising members to take it down a notch?
This is cult-like behavior. This kind of language and this kind of behavior raises money. It fuels anger. You can talk about toning down the rhetoric and raising it at the same time and still, get those ratings on MSNBC and to a certain point CNN. They don't really mean it. I mean, when Larry was reading that story earlier, I was listening to it. It was just amazing. I thought of a new song that the Trump campaign could use against Biden. We call it Rambling Joe, Rambling Joe. How would that work?
It's never a Cal Thomas segment unless we get to hear you sing. Cal, real fast, great unity last night with Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, a last-minute addition, and a smart one, I think, a really delightful speech from her. Your column is projecting forward what you think Trump should say Thursday night. If you were writing his speech, what would it sound like?
Well, I think there's always room, of course, for attacking the policies of the other side, which Trump has done regularly, especially with the border, inflation, things that people actually feel. But I think, he would be very, very smart if he could fake some humility, at least fake it. In Washington, if you can fake humility, you can fake anything. But I think that incident that almost took his life, we're hearing that it has had a profound effect on him.
I think
so.
You're right.
I think if he toned it down, if he said something like, "We're all Americans, we have disagreements, we should fight it out at the ballot box and not in the streets," I think that would go a long way to swinging some of those independent voters in his direction.
I think you're right. I think that ironically, Biden and the Democrats have given him a big opening because they have not stopped their vitriol and their histrionics. And Donald Trump can emerge as the Morning in America president, the unity president that Biden has always lied about him trying to be. But he,
I need to correct you on one thing, Larry. It's no longer histrionics; it's herstrionics.
How about their strionics?
That would be good.
I don't want to presume.
Watch those pronouns.
No.
Thanks, Cal.
All right.
Take care.